Bradley Beal was supposed to be the missing piece, the third superstar that would finally push the Phoenix Suns over the championship edge. Instead, he became the most expensive mistake in recent NBA history. After just 2 seasons of disappointment, injuries, and locker room tension, the Suns have officially given up on their $250 million investment. But here's the twist nobody saw coming. The LA Clippers just swooped in to claim the fallen star for a fraction of the price. This isn't just another trade story. This is the shocking tale of how one of the league's most talented scorers went from untouchable superstar to unwanted burden in less than 2 years. When the Phoenix Suns traded for Bradley Beal in 2023, the basketball world collectively lost their minds. Here was a team that already had Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, 2 of the most lethal scorers in the NBA, and they were adding a third elite offensive weapon. The math seemed simple. 3 superstars equals championship. But what looked like basketball genius on paper turned into an absolute disaster on the court. The Suns gave up Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, and multiple draft picks to Washington, essentially mortgaging their future for a player they believed would deliver them a title. The excitement was palpable. ESPN analysts called it a championship-caliber move. Fans were already planning parade routes. But sometimes the most obvious moves are the most dangerous ones. The problem started almost immediately. Beal, who had been the undisputed alpha in Washington for years, suddenly found himself as the third option behind Durant and Booker. His usage rate plummeted, his shot attempts decreased. But more importantly, his body began betraying him at the worst possible moments. The back strain that kept him out during crucial playoff pushes, the calf issues that limited his explosiveness, the hamstring problems that turned him from a dynamic scorer into a liability on both ends of the floor. Over 2 seasons, Beal averaged just 17.6 points per game, a significant drop from his 31.3 points per game in his final season with Washington. But the numbers don't tell the full story of just how broken this experiment became. What the cameras didn't show was the growing frustration behind the scenes. Sources close to the team revealed that Beal's constant injuries created a toxic environment where teammates couldn't rely on him when it mattered most. The Suns built their entire offensive system around having 3 elite scorers, but when one of them was perpetually questionable or playing at 70%, the whole thing collapsed. Durant reportedly grew frustrated with the inconsistency. Booker struggled to find his rhythm without a reliable third option. The chemistry that was supposed to develop naturally never materialized because Beal simply couldn't stay on the court long enough to build it. By the end of last season, whispers around the league suggested that Phoenix was already exploring ways to move on from their expensive mistake. The breaking point came during the playoffs when Beal's injuries reached a fever pitch. While his teammates battled through adversity, Beal was relegated to a spectator role, watching from the bench as his team's championship dreams crumbled. The optics were terrible. Here was a player making superstar money, sitting in street clothes during the most important games of the season. The Suns front office knew they had a problem that money couldn't solve. They needed availability, not just talent. They needed someone who could be counted on in crucial moments, not someone who was always one tweak away from the training room. The decision to explore a buyout wasn't just about basketball fit. It was about cutting their losses before the situation got even worse. Enter the LA Clippers, a franchise that's made a living off taking calculated risks on damaged goods. They saw what Phoenix couldn't miss, that Beal's problems weren't necessarily permanent. The 2-year, $11 million deal they offered represents one of the most stunning value plays in recent NBA history. The Clippers are betting that a change of scenery, reduced expectations, and their superior medical staff can unlock the player Washington fell in love with. But this isn't just about basketball rehabilitation. The Clippers have a championship window that's rapidly closing, and they needed a proven scorer who could contribute immediately. Beal, despite his recent struggles, still possesses the shooting touch and offensive instincts that made him a perennial all-star. The implications of this move extend far beyond just 2 franchises. For Phoenix, this buyout represents a massive organizational failure. They mortgaged their future for a player who couldn't stay healthy, and now they're left with fewer assets and the same championship drought. The pressure on Durant and Booker has intensified exponentially. They're no longer part of a big 3, they're a duo that needs to prove they can win without a third superstar. For the Clippers, this is either a masterstroke or a dangerous gamble. If Beal can return to even 80% of his Washington form, they suddenly have one of the most potent offensive units in the league. But if his injury problems persist, they've just added another fragile piece to an already injury-prone roster. The real question isn't whether Beal can play basketball at a high level. We know he can. The question is whether his body will allow him to do it consistently over a full season and playoff run. The Clippers' medical staff has a strong track record of managing veteran players with injury histories, but Beal's problems seem to run deeper than typical wear and tear. His back issues, in particular, are the type of chronic problems that can derail careers. The Clippers are betting that reduced minutes, better load management, and a less pressurized environment can keep him healthy when it matters most. What makes this story even more compelling is the human element. Beal went from being the beloved franchise player in Washington to the scapegoat for Phoenix's failures. The criticism has been relentless. Social media has been brutal. His reputation has taken a significant hit. Now with the Clippers, he has a chance at redemption. He can prove that the Phoenix experiment failed because of circumstances, not ability. He can show that he's still the player who averaged over 30 points per game and carried a franchise on his shoulders. But redemption stories in the NBA are rare, especially for players coming off such public failures. The timing of this move couldn't be more perfect for drama. The Clippers are in the middle of their championship window with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George. They needed scoring depth, and Beal provides exactly that. But they also needed someone who could handle the pressure of playoff basketball, and Beal's recent track record raises serious questions about his ability to perform in clutch moments. This isn't just about regular season production. It's about whether Beal can be the player the Clippers need when the games matter most. The financial aspect of this deal is absolutely stunning. The Suns are essentially paying Beal to play for their competition. The buyout structure means Phoenix is still responsible for a significant portion of his salary while he tries to win a championship with another team. It's a nightmare scenario for any front office paying premium money for a player to potentially beat you in the playoffs. The Clippers, meanwhile, are getting a former All-Star for bargain basement prices. If Beal even approaches his previous form, this could go down as one of the most lopsided value acquisitions in NBA history. Looking ahead, the success or failure of this move will likely be determined in the next 6 months. The Clippers need immediate production from Beal to justify the risk. They can't afford another injury-prone star who disappears when the games matter most. For Beal, this represents probably his last chance to prove he belongs in the upper echelon of NBA players. At 31 years old, with a history of injuries and recent failures, he's running out of opportunities to rewrite his narrative. The broader implications for the NBA are fascinating. This move signals that even massive contracts and superstar talent don't guarantee success. It shows that availability is more valuable than pure ability. It demonstrates that sometimes the best trades are the ones that never happen, and the worst ones are the moves that look brilliant on paper but fail in reality. The Suns thought they were getting a championship piece, but they ended up with an expensive reminder that basketball is played by humans, not spreadsheets. What happens next will determine whether this story ends in redemption or disaster. The Clippers are betting everything on their ability to maximize damaged goods. Beal is betting his legacy on his ability to stay healthy and produce when it matters most. The Suns are left hoping their former star doesn't come back to haunt them. In a league where narratives change overnight, Bradley Beal's journey from superstar to outcast to potential savior represents everything that makes the NBA endlessly compelling. The only question now is whether this gamble pays off or becomes another cautionary tale about the dangers of chasing quick fixes in professional sports.